Okay, the biennial council meeting of the League of Women Voters of Kansas will please come to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's program has 4 parts, and in a moment, we will begin the first half of our business session, followed by our keynote speaker session. And after that, we'll take a brief break and return for panel discussion, followed by the final business session. I'm Jackie Lightcap, co-president, and you just heard from Martha Pint, our other co-president. Your council booklet today includes important info for the program. We thank the LWVK board members and our office administrator, Olivia Higdon, for all the hard work that this document represents. 2021-22 was truly an action-packed year for the League in our state, and hopefully that will be captured in our discussion today. Before we decided to make council fully virtual, our meeting was planned for Leavenworth County, and members of the Leavenworth County League have been involved in the planning process and are helping us out today. So thank you all very much for doing this work. So it's my honor to introduce to you members of the LWVK board who are here today. So for this portion, you might want to go to gallery view. If you're not already, then you can see more people. Because if you are on the board member, if you are a board member and I call your name, just wave at the screen so people can kind of see where you're at. First vice president for budget and board development is Sarah Funk. Grace Wilson is second vice president. Let's see, Marlene Merrill, secretary. She's actually not here today. Seal King, advocacy. Jean Lee, membership. Janice Walker, intra-league coordinator. Anita Kaiser, treasurer. Susan Horst, voter service. Megan Wright-Hagen, social media. And Teresa Briggs is the people-powered Fair Maps coordinator. I think I said Olivia Higdon. I'm sorry, I got off my list, was out of order here. We also thank the chair of the nominating committee, Gwen Elliott, and members Linda Johnson, Diana Tarver, Teresa Briggs, and Seal King. And we also want to mention Cheryl Alsliger, who served in an off-board capacity as archivist this year, and Kristen Salmons, who helps coordinate our Legislative Observer Corps. Thank you all very much for your dedication and hard work. And I think this is appropriate to clap or use your little clap emoji or do something because these folks have done good work this year. We appreciate them. We are now pleased to introduce the local league presidents for 2021 to 22. We know a couple of you are having meetings and there might have been some turnover, but we're recognizing those who, along with their members, served in the last year on the front line across the state. Emporia is, oh, and if those folks could also kind of wave your hand if you're able. Emporia, Teresa Briggs, Great Bend, Janice Walker, Johnson County, Amber Stinger, Lawrence, Douglas County, Emily Reiner, Leavenworth, Lisa Weekly, Manhattan, Riley County, Kathy Hedge, Salina, Lori Troe, Topeka, Shawnee County, Carol Jordan, and Wichita Metro co-presidents, Beth Schaefers and Martha Pint. Thank you all very much. And Martha, I think you're muted.
All right, and now we're going to talk about the organization of council. We are, and you want to refer to page 49 of the booklet for council committee appointments. We are very fortunate today to have Carol Farmer, a professional registered parliamentarian, with us and being our covering as parliamentarian for the day. Also, we will not have a committee to approve the council minutes for this year, as we're going to move that responsibility over to actually our board of directors for LWVK. Then also for the credentials report, our credentials group, Sarah Funk and Mary Galligan. And Sarah will now present the credentials report.
Oh boy.
You need some help, Sarah? Are you?
Mary says, looks like we have a quorum.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay,
Do you have
Um,
the numbers from the script that have the numbers for the leagues in attendance with how many voting delegates or?
Do you have those numbers?
We have 9 leagues in attendance and 1 at-large representative. We have voting delegates in attendance, 28 of the 30 who were registered.
so we have a quorum for the transaction of business. Perfect.
Okay, we like to hear that. Thank you. Are there, first of all, we're going to approve the council minutes. You'll want to look at page 20 to 24 in your booklet for this particular part. It's also going to be on the slides as well, but if you want to look at your own booklet. Are there any additions or corrections to the 2021 convention minutes? And I will need help in a minute if that, hold on a sec, we don't, okay. we need to have a, okay, I guess we're gonna go ahead and launch the poll. So I guess there's no changes. Go ahead and vote if you could. I think it's on your screen. I'm seeing something a little different than what you all are seeing.
I didn't start that poll.
Okay. Okay, I'm not sure where it started.
That's okay. It's there. It's there.
It's our
and,
practice. This will be our practice poll. Hopefully there's not a lot of issue with the minutes. Just go ahead and vote if you are in favor or not of the minutes.
We only have 2/3 of the people participating, but okay.
Well, there were only 28
All right, right.
delegates. Is that correct?
We got all 28 and voted.
Okay.
It's approved 27 to 28.
Okay. So the minutes of the 2022 council meeting will be approved. So those minutes were approved. Thank you all very much. The minutes of, as Martha mentioned, the minutes of this meeting will be approved by the board of directors prior to next year's convention. So next year we won't have to do this step. It will already be done and you will see a final version. Okay, the council booklet also contains information to help you follow today's meeting. So if we just recommend that at some point you, stop. Okay. Recommend that at some point you go ahead and read over those reports from the co-presidents, officers, directors, and local leagues, which really represent everything you all have done over the last year. This has been an impactful year for the League at League of Women Voters of Kansas, and we want to thank all of the board officers, directors, and off-board specialists who make it happen, and our local leagues for their help in making the league and democracy work in Kansas. So please refer to page 5 in your booklet for the council order of business, and then the proposed council rules on page 14 that will apply to today's proceedings. We do want to first look at the council rules. So we need a motion to adopt those. And if you want to, if you can unmute, if you want to make a motion to approve.
If you're the one that makes a motion or makes a second, please announce who you are so that our secretary can record that in the minutes.
This is Grace Wilson. I move that we adopt the council rules. There's a slight typo in that it says MAL instead of at-large members under .III.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
this is Linda Johnson. I second the motion.
Okay. So it has been moved and seconded to adopt the council rules. Is there any debate about that? And Grace will try to make a note to fix that in future editions. Okay. So the vote is now on the motion to adopt the council 2022 rules, and this vote requires a 2/3 vote to approve. So now we can go ahead and launch poll number 2. And will all voting delegates please vote now?
And don't forget to submit.
Thank you.
Thank you.
100%.
Okay. Thank you very much. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. I'm just curious, are the results being shared? Can anybody see those, or are they? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. If you all have done these before, sometimes you know sometimes you can see half of it and sometimes you can't. So I just want to make sure y'all are seeing it. Thank you. So now, is there a motion to adopt the council 2022 order of business?
Carol Neal, I move that we accept.
Okay, Carol made a motion.
Janice Walker, I'll second it.
Okay, thank you, Janice. So it's been moved and seconded to adopt the council 2022 order of business. Is there any debate? Okay, so the vote is on the motion to adopt the council 2022 order of business. So the poll 3 should be up. You can vote now, please, for the order of business. Okay, looks like the ayes have it. It looks like yes, 100%. Okay, the ayes have it and that motion is passed. Thank you very much.
All right. All items to be voted on will now be introduced with motions and votes coming during our second business session. First, we have the proposed budget. Treasurer Anita Kaiser and Budget Committee Chair Sarah Funk will comment on year-to-date state league finances and the proposed budget for 2022 through 2023. And you want to see pages 28 through 31 of your booklet as points of reference. Anita?
Okay, just a few quick notes about the first column of the first page of the budget here. We ended the fiscal year with approximately $7,000 more in income than in expenses, and all the local leagues have paid their per member dues for the year. This page you're looking at here shows our bank account balances at the end of February compared to the balances of the previous fiscal year end, which was March 31st. We have 1 month to go in this fiscal year for this report. These balances show that the education fund has been closed out. Since we're a 501c3, we no longer need LWVUS to hold our education fund money, and that ending balance of $28,818.75 has been transferred to the operating account. Also, the money market account now holds the designated funds for the Kansas Suffragist Memorial. This money was the unspent money from the Centennial Celebration and the large bequest we received in 2020. The last note is the annual financial review will be done this summer. Now, Sarah will present the proposed budget.
The proposed budget for this fiscal year is $55,604. This is an increase from the previous year's budget for several reasons. The cost of Vote 411 and the budgets for advocacy and voter services are more because it is a national election year. 2022 is also the year in which League of Women Voters US has its national convention, and our budget includes subsidies for LWVK delegates to attend in person. Administrative expenses in the budget include the startup cost of subscribing to a member management software such as Club Express. This expense was in last year's budget but has not occurred. So are there any questions about the budget or the treasurer's report?
No questions? Wow, you guys did a very You did such a thorough job. Thank you very much. That is a lot of work, and we appreciate Anita and Sarah working together on that because it's been a busy year with all of the budgeting, figuring all of that out this year. So thank you. Now we have study co-chair Ann Zimmerman will give a brief overview of the study process and the presentation of the 2021 to 22 position update on youth justice. Ann?
Yes, I think I'm unmuted. Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, I will just say that, well, we had our study committee selected at the convention last April, and we had a few additional members added after that. Our members were me, I'm from Salina, Ann Zimmerman. We had Gabrielle Thompson from Manhattan, Riley County. She and I were the co-chairs. We also had Sharon Elslinger from Wichita Metro. We had Vicki Arnett. Now I always get mixed up who's from where, but I think Vicki's from Topeka, Shawnee County. Jennifer Day from Johnson County. Melissa Masoner from Topeka, Shawnee County. And Marlene Merrill, who again is one of them that I get mixed up, but I think she's from Lawrence, Douglas County. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. We also had Jennifer Hemingway from Wichita Metro, but she had to leave after the first few months because of scheduling issues. So we met by Zoom monthly or so, sometimes more than that. I will encourage you, if you are considering being on a study committee, it is not onerous. You sort of take on as much as you want to, and Zoom makes these meetings much easier. Our task was to update the 22-year-old juvenile justice position, which was approved in 2000. And we decided to use a concurrence process, which is to look at all the other leagues around the country and find one that you can just take because you assume that they've studied it. We went looking for positions to copy, and we looked at 17 different states, and almost none of them were any newer than ours, but we looked at them in a way of figuring out what concepts were involved in the juvenile justice positions, and we tried to model our position proposal on the concepts we got from those positions, including ours. And then we also updated some language, and that was how we came up with our position proposal. We looked through all the Kansas juvenile justice statutes, which were thoroughly revised about 5 years ago with input from the Pew Charitable Trust, and they were pretty good. Not all of them were being enforced. We listened to voices from all three branches of government in meetings that they joined us on our monthly meetings for some panel discussions of these things. Some examples of what we updated were the idea of rehabilitation for youth. It's not considered to be a valid concept for youth who are developing and changing and maturing to rehabilitate them to some past condition that was better than this one. We use the words positive youth development or positive juvenile development to reflect the fact that brain science shows that adolescent brains are not fully developed and they still have important growth ahead of them. And we debated all the way through whether we should use the word juvenile or the word youth. And we decided in the end just to call it youth development because juvenile has a connotation of juvenile delinquency. And so we changed all the juvenile to youth. So now we have a position on youth justice and not juvenile justice. And we put our final position proposal in 8 paragraphs, and we numbered them for easier reference. And those 8 paragraphs are starting on page 32 in your booklet. I will just give you a quick topic for each paragraph. The first one talks about links to our criminal justice position, which we just revised last year. And there were some basic concepts in that position that we tried to echo to the extent it was appropriate in our our youth justice position, like implementing good safety practices, ensuring appropriate funding, and developing alternatives to incarceration, focusing on the maturity and needs of the youth and their families, and protecting everybody's civil rights. The second paragraph balances public safety and positive youth development. So we want the public to be safe, but we also don't want to squash our youth to where they can never develop into mature, contributing adult citizens of our country. That's part 2. Part 3 is talking about supportive programs within the community, rather than sending youth off to a far distant youth detention center. We are urging that they remain in their community and that they have programs for them in their communities. Paragraph 4 looks at existing statutes, the ones that they just revised in the last 5 years, and urges enforcement and a little bit of expansion of those statutes. Including, well, there's a training requirement in the statutes, and it includes training social workers and others involved in the system, but it skips over defense attorneys, juvenile prosecutors, and juvenile court judges, and we think they should be trained as well, including in issues of racial and cultural bias and child development, youth development. Number 5 says we don't want the funds diverted, which last year they were diverted out of the juvenile justice fund to help with the budget needs. And we are urging that not be done and that be undone if it was done. Number 6 calls for ongoing assessment of youth and family needs to make sure that as they're getting better or changing, or they have new crises at their home and in their lives, they get the support and treatment they need, including their families, because much of youth problems come out of their whole family, not just themselves. And number 7 talks about a list of rights that they should be able to depend on. We included the right to an individual plan of study for their in education, so that if they have to go to detention, they don't drop out of their education and lose their way on education. We also have, well, several rights in there: treatment for substance use disorders and mental health needs and anger and aggression, the right of juveniles to control their own bodies, the right of juveniles to education about interpersonal relationships, which could be sex education, could be just human relations, and could be how to relate to their juvenile defense attorney. Number 8 is practices that the League of Women Voters can't support, and that is solitary confinement for juvenile offenders, routine handcuffing and shackling of juvenile offenders and or youth offenders, and life sentences for juvenile offenders. That's our position. Thank you. I don't know if I took up too much time or too little, but thank you.
Thank you, Anne. We appreciate it. Appreciate all the engagement your group has had in this issue. And Yeah, they've done really good work. So thank you so much. We will come back in the second business session to actually vote on that, but we appreciate the presentation and info.
I'm not sure if Ann, no, just not sure if Ann mentioned this. The position was, I think, all 9 local leagues. There was an agreement. Is that correct?
There were a lot. I'm not sure it was everybody. I think
The
it was about
majority.
7. I think we had 7.
Perfect, perfect.
Great. We like that. We like it when everybody can be involved. And Ann is right in that Zoom has made this much easier for this group to get together than in the past. So we look forward to continuing that part of the Zoom for sure. Okay, Richard Pund from Johnson County is going to give a presentation on the recommended, one of the recommended 2022-23 position updates on election administration. You can see this on page 35 in your booklet, but we'll go ahead and turn this over to Richard.
Hi, good morning, everyone. First, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. So my name is Richard Pund, and I'm from Johnson County. The League of Women Voters of Kansas requests members' consideration of the following position update during LWVK Council 2022. Per the League's efforts in recent years to review positions of more than 10 years old, the LWVK board requests a 1-year review and modernization of the League's election administration position as it was last updated in 2003. The update will focus on election methods. League of Women Voters US adopted a position in 2020 which encourages the adoption of electoral methods that provide broader voter representation. This national position was formed out of research performed by several other state leagues. Our review will leverage this research to form our own recommendations for state and local elections in Kansas. Similar to the national position, ours could take the form of endorsing aspects of election methods we study rather than deciding on a specific one to endorse. For example, given our league's strong support for people-powered fair maps, we may choose to endorse proportional election methods that minimize the number of wasted votes.
Thank you very much, Richard. So we do require a chair or co-chairs before we vote to form a committee to start a study or a position update. And we're glad that Richard has agreed to chair this for this 1-year position update. He would welcome a co-chair. So if anyone is interested in this, or if you know someone in this topic, if you know someone in your local league that might be also interested, Richard has already done a lot of work on some of this pre-research, I guess I should say, and he's ready to go, but would love to have a partner to help him. So be in touch with Martha or I, and we will connect you with Richard. Now we have Connie Taylor. She is with Johnson County, and she's going to give a presentation on the other recommended 2022-23 position update on legislative apportionment.
Good morning. My name is Connie Taylor from Johnson County. The League of Women Voters of Kansas requests members' consideration of the following position update during LWVK Council 2022. Per LWVK's efforts in recent years to review positions more than 10 years old, LWVK board requests a 1-year review and modernization or update of the legislative apportionment position as it was last updated in 1975. In addition, this update will build on the momentum of the LWVK-led People-Powered Fair Maps Committee over the past 3 years and serve as a strong foundation for the next census and redistricting process.
Thank you, Connie. This is another case where we require a chair before we vote to form this committee on starting a study or a position update. And we thank Connie for agreeing to be chair of this 1-year position update. This group, as she mentioned, has already done so much work, and we could honestly do a whole session on everything that this group has done over the last 2 or 3 years. So, but just know that Connie and that the People Powered Fair Maps team is going to help form a core of this, but they're obviously welcome to new people, more people coming and joining them. So reach out to us again and we can connect you with Connie. Again, we will vote on those after the break.
All right. Carol Neal will now present the LWVK Endowment Fund bylaws change that's recommended on pages 36 through 38 of the council booklet. I will just add, as I didn't see it in the thoughts that Carol was going to share, this is a small board that oversees the endowment fund, and there's need for some change on the board members. So we have some who have their term limited. So we have some that are reaching that date soon, and we're looking to have individuals who would serve on the board to oversee that. So if you would be interested finding out the details about what it is to serve on the endowment board, by all means, please reach out to either Jackie or myself, or Carol Neal can bring you up to speed on that as well. So I'll turn it over to Carol.
Good morning. We just have a minor change. The endowment fund is a fund that is part of the LWV Kansas. It was formed over 50 years ago as a means to preserve the ability of the league to continue if we got into bad financial times. So the bylaws should match the bylaws of the LWVK. These, and if you'll just go down to the bottom, it's because of the switch from to a 501(c)(3), we need to change these bylaws to match what the LWV Kansas is. So if you'll look on, I guess it's page 38, you'll see the changes. Anything else?
I think that takes care of it, Carol. Thank you for that. And hopefully everyone sees those changes that are being requested, again, as Carol indicated, just so that it aligns the the endowment fund bylaws with the LWVK bylaws to address that change that we made in converting to the 501(c)(3). So perfect. Next on our agenda is the presentation of the nominating committee report. And I would refer you to page 39 in the booklet for this. To do the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to the nominating committee chair, Gwen Elliott. So good morning, Gwen.
Good morning. Thank you. The people on the nominating committee were Seal King, Linda Johnson. Oh, I should say where they're from. Seal King, Lawrence, Linda Johnson, Leavenworth, Teresa Briggs, Emporia, and Diana Tarver, Salida. And as you can see, we have for treasurer Sarah Funk for a 2-year term from 2022 to 2024 from Johnson County. The second vice president is still open. We'd love to have people let us know if they're interested. Elected directors, 2 terms, again from 2022 to that should be 2024. Vicki Arnett, Topeka Shawnee County, is going to be our intra-league co-coordinator with Janice Walker. And the other director is Jill Quigley from Johnson County, who will have the portfolio of diversity, equity, and inclusivity. Are there any questions? Hearing none, that's our report for now, and I think we vote later.
And actually, Gwen is correct. We do vote later. Just to pause for a moment, if we could, make sure that everyone understands this is the opportunity if there are any nominations to be made for any of the positions that Gwen referenced. This would be the time to put forth those nominations. Do we have any nominations from the floor? Please feel free to either raise your hand, would probably be the easiest way for us. We do have people who are monitoring hands and also the chat, or if you're interested in making that such a nomination, you can feel free to unmute yourself and do so. We don't want anyone to be overlooked if there is that interest. And also just keep in mind, any nominations that are made It has to be made with the agreement by the person who's being nominated. No one gets to put forth someone without their approval. So do we have any hands, any indications from the floor of nominations? All right, I'm not hearing any. At this point, we're a little bit ahead of schedule. Our next presentation, it was supposed to occur at 10 o'clock. So bear with us just a second. Let us just touch base and see if our presenters are with us. Hold on.
Martha, this is Ann Zimmerman. I would like to make like another tiny addition to my study report.
Sure.
Since we have a minute.
Sure.
On page 33 and 34 of the booklet, after the end of the position, we have a whole section called background. And we decided to add a background section. We've seen that in some other state leagues positions, to say how we got to our position and some background. And then at the very end of that, the background is our suggestions for further study, which I neglected to mention. And there are two of those. One is crossover youth, which is kids that are in both the juvenile justice system, the youth justice system, and the child in need of care system. So they are abused or neglected by their parents, and they have violated the law. And those are a special group of kids that have special needs, and they have two different agencies at least dealing with them, which means sometimes they get lost between the agencies. So that's one thing we might want to study. And the other thing that we didn't deal with in our position is the use of fines and fees levied against youth and their families. This is also a problem for adult offenders. They have to pay their way to participate in the court system and the community correction services. So both of those were suggested for future study, and I forgot to mention those. Thank you, that's all.
Not a problem. It's a huge subject, lots of multifaceted, lots of things that need to be addressed. So, and our position, as you had indicated, was considerably aged. So lots of things have changed, and hopefully for the better. So we need to be up to date to stay relevant. So again, thank you for Ann and Gabrielle and all the work that they and their committee put into this. So again, let me just touch base and make sure whether our first presenters are here, and we'll give you just a moment. Hold on.
We use.
There is one comment in the chat that Vicky, it says Vicky has just an I on the end, not Vic. I don't know if you want to make note of that.
Thanks, Vicky. I think that might just be an error on the slide. I think it should be correct in the booklet. We do know how to spell your name. That's just an overlook. Sorry about that.
I'm going to reach out to Mary and Sarah. They've been monitoring who's been coming in through the waiting room. Has Claire or Tricia joined us at this point? I know they were going to be in a little bit early, but I'm not quite sure this are. I don't see them as listed in the participants.
They're not in the waiting room.
Okay.
Okay. Let's just take an extra little break in here if we could. Is that okay with you, Jackie?
Yeah, why don't we take about 10 minutes, you think, or 5? What do you think?
Let's just go with 10 and give them
Okay,
time to
we'll
get
do
in
10,
and get squared away. And then that'll give us all time for a breakaway from the screen, and we'll plan on coming back together at 5 till 10. All
And
right.
go ahead and stop your video if you'd like, but you don't need to log out. Just stay on and we'll be right back. Thank you.
All right, everyone, as it is 9:55, we hope that you return to your computer and are back with us to move forward. Next on the agenda, we're going to ask that Leavenworth President Lisa Weekly introduce our presenters for the keynote. Lisa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Martha. Good morning, everyone. Our speakers are Claire Bishop and Tricia Maxwell with American Public Square. American Public Square is a Kansas City-based community organization working to improve the tone and quality of public discourse. Claire Bishop is the Executive Director and COO, an experienced leader and organizational transformative expert. Claire believes in the power of working hard to achieve positive change in her community. Claire is a graduate of the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and she served as a marketing executive and board member in for-profit and nonprofit organizations over the span of a 20-year career. She's a seasoned communication professional. Claire brings clarity, organization, and passion to the American Public Square community. Tricia Maxwell, civics education. Oh, Maxfield, I'm sorry, Tricia. Tricia Maxfield, Civics Education Initiative Associate, a lifelong learner. Tricia graduated from Kansas State University, followed by the University of Kansas School of Law. After living abroad, she returned to Kansas City. Tricia sought ways to give back to her community and country and was inspired to earn a Master's of Ed and certification in middle school social studies from Rockhurst University. Before joining American Public Square, she taught 7th and 8th grade social studies. Her passion for fostering critical thinking, civics engagement, and media literacy skills for young people will come to life through her.
No, it's in my
activities.
purse. It's in my purse.
Yeah, American Public Square. Trish was born and raised in Kansas City. Thank you, ladies, for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having us and for that introduction, Lisa. As Lisa mentioned, my name is Claire Bishop, and as Executive Director at American Public Square, it is my pleasure to be here today with you all and to provide a brief introduction on our organization, and then really to hand the mic over to the magnificent Tricia Maxfield, who will work through a series of exercises and prompts with this group to help foster civility. Now, I know we have a presentation, a PowerPoint, and I don't know whether that's attached here or if I should be trying to move through that. I can really speak to it. I think it's more important that we get it up when Tricia's time is coming, because she's got some prompts that'll come on screen that'll help us move through the program. But I'm just here to provide a little bit. Oh, here it is right here. And if we'd like to advance that, whoever's got the Wizard of Oz gears to slide 4, that would be fantastic. We already said our hellos. By the way, it's great to share Saturday morning with you all. And Tricia and I were talking just a moment beforehand about how fantastic that you will have a group of members and participants who are active on a Saturday morning on a Zoom call for your, what I understand is your annual summit. So kudos to you all for being actors and of civic engagement in your own communities. Let's go back up one more. Yeah, there we go. I just wanted to share a little bit about the organization. American Public Square at Jewel was started in 2013 by our founder and CEO, former ambassador to Portugal, Alan Katz, who, when he returned from Portugal, was recruited to UMKC by then Chancellor Leo Morton, and identified, I think quite presciently, the need for organizations such as ours that exist to bridge the divide that exists between people who disagree about important issues. And those can be political issues, they can be cultural issues, they can be issues related to challenges and society at large. American Public Square really exists as a bridge between those divisive issues for people. We are a nonprofit organization, as Lisa mentioned. We've been operating in Kansas City on national topics, though, for the last 7 years or 8 years now. Goodness, losing track of time. We do our work and work to achieve our mission of improving the tone and quality of public discourse in 3 ways. By convening groups and creating space, as we will today, for respectful dialogue on important topics. And I understand you're moving from this session into another session where you'll actually be tackling some real life discussion. And so maybe this will be a primer for some of that discussion that you're moving into later. That's in essence what we'll be doing today. We also educate the community about why engaging in this way is important and how to do it well. And I'm just so pleased to have been able to welcome Tricia Maxfield to our team. You'll learn just how awesome she is in just a moment. She comes with a really interesting background, a law degree, was a practicing educator, through the COVID pandemic, and recently joined us as our civics education lead. And right now at American Public Square, a lot of what we do in education is really focused on students and young people, both at the high school and the college level. But today's program is really almost a pilot, if you will, for some of that curriculum that we've developed, which we recognize a very extensive need for among adult learners. And it's hard to admit, but as parents, often as adults in the community, we recognize that we need that training, that education, that hands-on practice as much as anybody. So we offer this session to y'all today in that spirit. Finally, we engage diverse segments of our society to ensure that multiple perspectives are represented and explored. Sometimes we get in trouble for this because that means, that, any given program that we produce, hopefully we've got a good mix of people who really agree with things that are being said and really disagree. And that's hard. As a culture, as a society, we've become increasingly uncomfortable discussing things that we don't agree about. And we have got to, for the sake of our democracy and for our community and for one another, learn how better to be in community with each other and talk with respect, with civility, with a factual basis about these issues that divide us. Lastly, I'll just say American Public Square at Jewell, we're formally affiliated. We have our academic home as of 2019 at William Jewell College, which if those of you, I know you all are in Kansas, but Liberty's not that far away from where some of you are, especially if you're on the eastern side of the state. William Jewell is a small private liberal arts school in Liberty, Missouri. We have a number of programs. Trisha's going to tell you about a few things that are coming up, but right now it is my pleasure and honor to hand over the mic to Trisha Maxfield, who's going to lead us through our session today. Trisha?
Thank you, Claire. It took me a minute to find my unmute button. Boy, I bet my husband wished I took that long to look for an unmute button sometime. So yes, thank you for having us. Thrilled to be here with you this morning. Thank you, Claire, for the kind words and the fantastic introduction. I want to say that Claire, I think, touched on the reason that we are here with you this morning, and that is, I understand your theme is courageous conversations, right? Engaging in them. What does it take? What does that look like? Why do we need to do that? And she touched on the most important facet. It's uncomfortable. We don't like to do it oftentimes, so we shy away from that. That's what we're going to dig into the most today. Before we jump into that, I want to tell you about a couple of events. This first one is to honor National Week of Conversation, which happens next week. Sometimes conversations with strangers are difficult. Once you've been through a pandemic for 2+ years, you find they can be nearly impossible, because when are you seeing strangers and when are you having time to talk? We are going to give you an opportunity this coming Wednesday at the Central Branch of the Kansas City Public Library. Our interns at William Jewell have collaborated with the Kansas City Public Library and folks at Consensus KC to bring an opportunity for intergenerational conversation. Wow. So we're going to have parties that are over the that are 55 and older. And then we're going to have college students that have signed up to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation over some really open-ended, provocative questions. For example, what is a stereotype your generation holds that you think is unfair? Right? And you're going to get the chance to talk with somebody in college to discuss that, to see the world maybe through their lens for an evening. We're going to serve dinner there that night. If you are available to join us Wednesday at 5:30, Central Branch of the Public Library downtown, this is the link. It is also linked on our website, or email me and we will give you our emails in the chat when we close the conversation, and I will help you get signed up. or this link that is right there in the presentation. You could open that up in another tab. You can find it on the Kansas City Public Library as well. So 5:30 this Wednesday, we'd love to have you. You do need to register because we're serving dinner. Registration is limited. And then one other event that we have is this Thursday at the Plaza Branch for the Kansas City Public Library. It is the culminating program for our student civic initiative. And we will be tackling the topic that was student selected by our high school partners here in Kansas City. How do we diversify our schools? We have a panel of 5 individuals who work in some capacity to impact education and touch on diversity or equity within education. So we'd love to have you join us. That is a free. Registration is on our website, and that conversation starts this Thursday at 6:30 at the Plaza Branch of the library. It should be a very lively conversation. The panel is full of very divergent views on the state of education and where we go from here. If you have any questions, let me know as we cruise through our program today. All right. To kick off what we're going to do, we're going to start with a little game, and I'm going to stop screen sharing as soon as I tell you what's on the page. We're going to play a little game called This or That, and I'm going to change the directions on you a little bit. I was going to have you turn off your camera. Instead, here's what we're going to do. If you choose the first option that I offer, you're going to do nothing. Sit on your hands. If you choose the second option that I offer, you're going to wave your jazz hands, okay? So everybody's going to leave their cameras on. Let's practice before I get this screen off, all right? This or that, breakfast or dinner. If you choose breakfast, sit on your hands. Dinner, jazz hands. Which is your favorite, breakfast or dinner? All right, so I can see some of you saying dinner. I'm going to stop sharing so that we'll be able to see more folks. Hopefully you can see more folks on your screen. Here we go. This or that, book or Kindle. If you choose book, don't do anything. Kindle, let's see your hands. Book or Kindle. Okay, so we got a majority book lovers here, right? I think book lovers say, I want to write in my book. I want to feel the pages. I want to smell the library on it. Okay, we get it. We get it. Mountains versus beach. Mountains, if you're beach, you should be jazzy, your whole screen. Yeah, I'm going to the beach for sure. And this crummy, short, non-existent spring has made me crave it even more. Movie versus concert. If you're movie, don't do anything. If you're going to rock out, let's see your jazz hands. Movie versus concert. All right, excellent. Barbecue. Now, I know you should know your audience, right? If I'm speaking to a bunch of people from Kansas City area. Barbecue versus vegetarian bowl. Veggies, where are you? Who's skipping the ribs and going straight to the, all right, there's more of us than I thought. Okay, that's great. Flying versus driving. Flying, don't do anything. Drive, let's see your hands. All right, we got a lot of road trippers, maybe some long destinations this summer, right? All right, country music, don't do anything, versus rock and roll. Rock and roll, let's see your hands. Oh, we got a lot of rock, okay. Got a lot of rockers here today. Okay, great. Okay, finally. Kids versus grandkids. I am just kidding. Do not vote on, oh my gosh, I knew this would, my mom would be all over it. Her hands would be kids versus grand. We can't do that. We can't do that. That'd be like if I said Patrick Mahomes or no, there is no other, right? Okay, so what's the point of our exercise here today, right? Well, the point is we are genuinely interested in our differences. We really are. We're curious. That was fun, right? Not only to share, right, that you may choose beach over mountains, but it was really fun to see what others chose. When the stakes are low, we're curious and engaged, right? We have this natural tendency to want to interact with each other and to ask, why do you like that? What's better about your Kindle? How do you operate it? But when the stakes get higher and we're talking about something that has a bigger consequence or that we're personally connected to, we tend to isolate. We stop talking to those that are different than us, and we circle and silo with people that think the same. We see this in research that says 1 in 6 Americans have stopped talking to a family member or close friend because of differing political views. That's terrible. This is impacting our families, our personal relationships, professional work settings. So we're going to start today in breakout rooms. We're going to examine 3 quotes, one at a time, and we're going to discuss these questions in your breakout rooms. What was the author's intent, and how might this relate to courageous conversations? If you're a note taker, you can make a little shorthand note. These are the 2 questions. What was the author's intent, and how might this relate to courageous conversations? I will copy and paste the quotes into the chat as you are moving into your breakout rooms. I'm going to go ahead and stop my share. What was the author's intent? How might this relate to courageous conversations? And I think the fantastic and talented Olivia is going to put everybody into random breakout groups. If we have groups of maybe 4 or 5, I think that size would be perfect. Random.
They're already set up. So if you're ready, let's go.
Let's go, Olivia, and doing so well. So I think we are all back, whole group. And I heard some great conversations. I dipped into some breakout rooms, and then we had one that organically happened back here in the whole group. So let's hear from some folks. If we want to, if we have a couple of volunteers that might unmute to share. Oh, somebody said this is a great point. Thank you, Grace, for that you didn't get every quote. That's unfortunate. Here were our 3 quotes, and then let's see if we have a volunteer to talk about what went on in their breakout room. Honest disagreement is often a good sign of progress. That's by Gandhi. Everyone you will ever meet knows something you don't. That is by the Venerable Bill Nye, the Science Guy. And John Stuart Mill said, he who knows only his own side of the case, knows little of that. Do we have any volunteers who would like to unmute and offer what the conversation was in your group and how it related to courageous conversations? I know this group that got up on a Saturday morning to save democracy and work together has a lot to say. Carol, do you have your hand up? Go ahead. If you're on.
I do. We only got the one quote, Gandhi's quote, and our discussion was, you know, we understand where Gandhi was coming from, and it is very valid that if we could everyone be honest in their discussion, that it would be wonderful, you know, that it would accomplish a lot. In the current environment that we have, we're not hearing a person's own personal beliefs, or we're hearing the noise that they have listened to on both sides, and we react to the noise. So if we could honestly have the discussions, we could probably maybe not come to common ground, but at least understand each other. So that's kind of where we talked about the amendment coming up and where that lies there. So it's very hard to have an honest discussion.
Okay, so we struggle to honestly get our thoughts out there, even though we know it might be the most productive path. We have a resistance perhaps to listening to the other side that challenges us. We have a fear sometimes to put our own idea out there. Anybody else want to offer something from their small group? Go ahead, Janet.
Hi, I was in group 8 and we had a lively conversation. We'll talk about Bill Nye the Science Guy. We were talking about in today's climate, sometimes science is no longer believed. So how do you have conversations with people who deny science? Where do you go from there? And I think our group did a good job, first of all, analyzing the author's intent, which was always to help foster a healthy, respectful conversation. And then how could that honest disagreement be a sign of progress? Going back to the first question, with Gandhi, to have that question with Britain, and then probably the comments weren't well received. So how was that a sign of progress? We don't know, but Gandhi kept trying. So I'm not summarizing it very well, but we had a very good discussion. So thank you.
I think you're summarizing it fantastic.
Thank you.
Summary was fantastic. Connie, let's take one last comment about a discussion and see what happened in Connie's small group.
We only received the one quote from Gandhi, but it was brought up that, if you have honest conversations, perhaps tragedies can be avoided. And we brought up the Challenger explosion.
Okay. And sorry about that, Gandhi, his presence for some of you was taking over, and just wanted you to think deeply about what we know are very powerful and wise words. All 3 quotes are in the chat now, and you can reflect on them and use them. I know that one of the groups I was in talked about sometimes they don't feel that we're honest about the fact that both political sides engage in this resistance to hear out the other side, and that both sides silo themselves, tend to stick with like-minded people and people that are going to agree with them. Where do we find true facts? Talked about algorithms. One of the women in a group that I was in talked about, well, what about the fact that companies are working against us, right? To send us information that we already agree with and just keeps us rolling. And then lots of people talked about the themes of open mind and listening. Okay, so if we know that that's what it takes, right, to have a great conversation, if that's what it takes to really be courageous in our conversations, what stops us, right? What are the elements that stop us from doing that? We are going to watch, and I'm hoping this is going to go better than the quotes in the chat. We are going to watch a quick video, and so make sure your volume is up. I'm going to advance the slide. Actually, give me 2 seconds. I'm going to do this another way that's going to be fully work out. Okay, here we go. This is a quick video that's going to talk about what stands in our way. What keeps us from being able to have that courage in that conversation? Here we go.
Trisha, we can't
Trisha,
hear it on
Trisha,
our end.
When you go to share screen at the bottom, you should see something that says share sound or share computer's audio, and then we'll be able to hear it.
You know what? I don't have that.
It should be, why don't you unshare your screen for a second? And then when you click on share screen, so we can still see your screen. So unshare.
This is me now. This is Olivia.
Oh, Olivia, I'm sorry. Okay, if you unshare, and then
I have the share audio going.
oh, thank you.
Perfect.
Our minds are pattern matchers that make very quick judgments, within a second usually, and then our reasoning afterwards to justify what we've just done. So the metaphor I used in my previous book, The Happiness Hypothesis, was that the mind is divided into parts, like a rider on an elephant. The rider is our conscious reasoning. It's pretty small and impotent, but it acts like it's in charge. And the elephant is the other 99% of the mind, which really runs most of our behavior. Most of us spend a lot of our time trying to persuade other people's riders. We give them all these reasons. Here are the 7 reasons why you're wrong or why you should see it my way. When in fact, the way to persuade people is to speak to the elephant first. The elephant is a lot stronger than the rider. If you get somebody feeling the truth of what you're saying or feeling that they like you or like what you're saying, and the elephant kind of wants to go in your direction, then it's effortless to persuade the rider to go along. But if the elephant is digging in its heels, the elephant doesn't want to go, doesn't want to be dragged along by you to the conclusion that you're trying to get him to, then there's really nothing you can say that will persuade the rider.
It started when brain fog nearly got me killed up here at 9,000 feet. So if you're over 40,
That's
50.
the end of our video. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much for that help. So let's take, and that was a quick video. I saw people in the chat talking about Jonathan Haidt's book, and he recently wrote an article that's making news right now, and Alan Katz, our founder, has suggested it's a read for everybody, why the last 10 years have been uniquely stupid in America. So you might look that up. Okay, so we watched The Elephant and the Rider. So let's see if we can have some volunteers in the chat. Can you tell us, when trying to persuade someone, what should you appeal to? The rider or the elephant, and why? Using your chat feature, when trying to persuade someone, what should you appeal to? The rider or the elephant, and why? And if you struggle getting started with that one, you might just throw in the elephant represents this, the rider represents this. Ah, the elephant, it has the biggest ears. Is Mary onto something? The elephant has the biggest ears. When we are trying to persuade somebody, what was the message from that short video? The elephant shows respect for their point of view. Okay. Anybody else? Anybody want to push back on that? The elephant, basic human instinct. Okay. The elephant has power and influence. Okay. The elephant, because intellect, rider, is a tiny part of a person's reasoning. Oh, and because intellect, right, is just a tiny, he said in there, we're using it about 1% of the time. But 99% of the time, we're using those other natural emotional reactions, right? Excellent. Students won't care what you know. They know that you care. The elephant, fantastic job. And I think that you are all right. When we engage in courageous, also curious conversations, the goal is to better understand the views of others, which might be in opposition to our own. Otherwise, the conversation is just coffee, right? It's just having a nice talk with somebody else. But a courageous conversation is when you engage with somebody that you expect, right, is going to be in opposition. Their views are going to oppose your own. And to do this successfully, we must try to control our elephants. I think you're right. In order to persuade them or engage, right, we need to engage with their elephant. If we are having a courageous conversation, we need to learn to control our elephant. And why? Well, in order to have this courageous conversation productively, if we are going to try to control one type of thinking, we need to understand what both are, right? So we really have two kinds of thinking going on. That's what science and study of the brain tells us. We have an all or nothing thinking, understands viewpoints as all one or another. That's how we view it initially and quickly, right? It's also called either or thinking. And the video tells us that really we're doing this 99% of the time. It's intuitive, it's emotional, it's fast and automatic, right? And we're all busy, so we're doing this a lot. Dialectical thinking is thinking that accepts that in our daily lives, opposing sides almost always both have some merit. There's some kernel of truth. When two people are in opposition, each side is going to at least have a kernel of truth or merit, also called both and thinking. It involves the ability to take others' perspectives and to accept uncertainty, ambiguity, and nuance, and time. This kind of thinking takes time. That's likely why we do it 1% of the time. It's rational, it's conscious reasoning, it's slow and effortful and analytical, right? So this kind of thinking is really what we want to engage in and be mindful and thoughtful when accepting courageous conversations. So why do you think dialectical thinking is so difficult? Let's see if we can hear from a couple of volunteers. You can just unmute maybe and let us know. I left the definition up on the screen. It's thinking that accepts in our daily lives opposing sides almost always have some merit and require us to take others' perspectives, to accept uncertainty, ambiguity, and nuance. Why is this so difficult? Linda Johnson, do you want to offer something?
What? No, am I unmuted? I am. Oh, dear me. One of the things that I think, and I said this more about the Gandhi quote, but it may relate to this too, is that there are people who by nature, my mother was one of these, and you have to put this in the context of 20 or 30 years ago, not in today's context where things are so polarized, that really want to avoid conflict. They really want to avoid disagreement. They really want things to be smooth and calm at all costs sometimes.
Why, Linda? Why do you think? Where does that come
Well,
from?
the person I think of is my mother. She really didn't like conflict. And her parents weren't conflictual. I don't know. I don't know why she didn't. I guess it was anxiety, fearfulness about something. I don't know.
I might offer.
Good.
And I really thank you, because
my mother's been dead, so you can say most anything.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your honesty and offering a personal experience. I think your example of a mom is something that is familiar and relative to all of us, right? And we might think about, why might dialectical thinking be difficult to her, especially from her daughter's perspective? Well, it's really hard to think about challenging someone we love, someone that we cherish, right? And it's really hard to think about somebody we respect and care about challenging something that we believe in. Social problems, or discussing social problems, can be very upsetting. We like certainty, and when we have uncertainty on big issues, it can be really difficult. Marie, you're raising your hand. Go ahead and unmute. What do you have to offer? Why is this so hard?
I think sometimes it makes us feel very defensive because of our actions in the past, or our perceived, whether we, and that makes us just hold our line because we'd have to accept some things about ourselves that we wouldn't like to.
Absolutely. That's great. It's hard to tolerate, right, that there's a lot we don't know. That's difficult. But it's also hard to tolerate that we have to admit to something maybe we're accountable for in the past or in the present. That makes this line of thinking really difficult. Anybody else have anything to add? We may hear, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I know Sarah's got her hand up and I do as well. So Sarah, what do you want to add?
I was going to say, if somebody with the opposite opinion of me could be right, then that means I could be wrong. Maybe that's what you said before.
Excellent. That stinks to have to admit we might be wrong. That is courage. All right, one last thought on this.
The only thing that I wanted to add to it is, Tricia, it seems like nowadays there's this huge amount of pressure to be firm. You have to pick a side, because my thoughts on this is, we as a society, it's us against them. It's those people versus these people. Everybody belongs in a spot. And if you can't label someone, oh, there's something wrong. We have to put them in there wherever they may land, but we have to put them there. And to question is like, well, don't you know your place? You're one of those people, or these people are, and it's like, it's not okay. It's not okay to seek out other people's perspectives on where they're coming from on issues, because that's not your spot. So I feel like there's a huge amount of pressure on just individuals from society now to do that. So
superb. I mean, look at the last two lines of what's on the screen. Uncertainty, ambiguity, and nuance. We don't like that. It's uncomfortable, right? We'd much rather know where everybody's lane is, what they think, what the issue is, where we're at relative to that, and let there be no gray or blur. That makes this kind of thinking really hard. There's lots of fear involved. Great job. So I'm here to tell you, and APS is here to tell you, that despite these fears, dialectical thinking is more likely to find effective solutions, help people get along with each other, increase inclusion, empathy, and justice. Now I'm going to pause there as we keep reading the list. Think about the comments from your group. Think about the example of somebody's mom who may have been viewed as not liking conflict, right? How would that have changed? Would it have increased inclusion, empathy, and justice within the family, within those relationships? Dialectical thinking helps you to be more persuasive, to facilitate dialogue, to help us understand things, to help us understand each other, right? And even brings increased emotional stability. It boosts it, right? Okay, so we are going to break into, and Olivia, the wise and talented Olivia, is going to help us to break into new groups. You're now going to practice this. That's what we do when we learn something new, right? Or we think deeply about something, then we put it into action. So in your breakout groups, in your small groups, you are going to try to come up with an issue, right, of your choice. Come back with 3 pros, 3 cons, and 1 uncertainty for your issue. Try to think of the best arguments on both sides. Now, a good teacher will always scaffold. They'll give you an example before you go off to do it on your own. I'm sure some of you are thinking, a really great teacher would ask the students, does anybody want to offer an example in the chat of a topic you're already thinking about? Could you throw that into the chat before we get into our rooms? What is an example of a topic that might be right for this abortion, right? Dogs are way better than cats. Excellent, Alana. I'm glad that we started with both of these. In your group, you can decide, right? Do you want to go with something that is really tough and challenging? Or are you guys feeling a little lighter and you just want to practice the skills of building pros and cons? Either way is great. Here's some examples I had. Continuing the travel mask mandate. Law and Order stripped from the headlines, right? That's been in the news all week. Continuing the travel mask mandate. Could you think of 3 pros, 3 cons, and an uncertainty in your group, right? And what about Medicare for all? Cancellation of student debt. What about Social Security issues? Amnesty for undocumented immigrants. What about the slap heard round the world, right? Should Will Smith have been asked to leave the Oscars immediately? Okay, So that gives you an idea. You guys will pick, decide on your topic, build 3 pros, 3 cons. And if we have time, Martha and Jackie, I would like to give everybody 10 minutes for this. Do we have 10 minutes for this? This is our last.
We have 5.
We have 5. Okay, let's do 5 and see what we come back with. That's great. Let's do 5 and see what we come back with. Try to come even pros and cons. Think pros, 3 cons, and 1 uncertainty, but maybe that's your homework as we leave each other, is to sit down with a pen and paper and see if you can do that on a couple of topics. I would encourage you, I think you're going to have some breaks. And if you have a chance to talk to other members during those breaks, share with them what your small group, what topic did you try and tackle? And was it harder? Was it more difficult for you to share or to build pros or cons of one side or the other, right? And think about what that takes, and how tough that can be. As we conclude, I want to share this quote. Do we have 2 volunteers? One to read the first paragraph.
I will, Linda Johnson.
Excellent, Linda. And can we have one more volunteer to read the second paragraph?
I can.
Excellent. Go for it, ladies.
In a country that is dividing by economic prospects, by years of education, by the look and feel of what constitutes a family, and by political persuasion, we continue to believe there might be a more important message we all need to hear.
Should I go ahead? The message people living in a democracy must understand more than any other message is that there are Americans who aren't just like you. They don't live like you. They don't have families like yours, and they don't think like you. They may not live in your neighborhood, but this is their country too.
Woo. Great job, ladies. That's from The Big Sword by Bill Bishop and Robert Cushing. I am going to go ahead and I think Claire dropped my email in the chat. Please contact me if you're interested in our intergenerational conversation on Wednesday. If you're interested in our program Thursday night at the Plaza Library starting at 6:30 on the current state of education and diversity in our schools, we'd love to have you register. It's been a pleasure working with you. I hope you continue to think about that quote that your members so generously and graciously just shared with you on the spot, and that we're all Americans, and even the people you disagree with are not going to self-deport. So we got to find a way to work together and talk about these tough issues. Thank you very much.
We want to take this opportunity to thank Tricia and Claire for being with us today. I can see an entire lengthy meeting devoted to the topics that they shared with us today. I did drop the information in the chat.
So this morning, you did hear the financial report and the proposed 2022-23 budget. So do I have a motion to adopt the budget?
Yes. I move we adopt the proposed 2022-2023 budget as presented.
It has been moved to adopt the proposed 2022-23 budget as presented. Is there any debate or questions?
And Susan, just for record keeping, that was Sarah that made that motion.
Okay. Hearing no questions or debate, the vote is on the motion to adopt the proposed 2022-23 budget. Please vote now. The poll should be up on your screen. If you're a voting delegate, please vote. If you're not, you can just watch. We have 25 have voted. I think that was our number. Is that right? Okay. Okay, so looks like the ayes have it. Yes, the ayes have it, and the motion is passed. So thank you, Sarah and Anita and all the members of that committee. Appreciate it.
And next on the agenda is the adoption of the Youth Justice Position Statement Update. You've heard the Youth Justice Position Statement Update. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
This is Ann Zimmerman in Salina, and I move that we adopt the proposed youth justice position as presented.
All right, it has been moved to adopt the Youth Justice Position Statement Update as presented. Are there any questions or need for debate? All right, hearing no questions, seeing no hands, no need for further debate. The vote is on the motion to adopt the Youth Justice Position Statement Update. All voting delegates, please vote now.
I don't have a.
Bear with us.
I don't have a thing to.
I don't either.
Yeah, mine disappeared.
Okay, give us just a second. We'll get the poll up.
Relaunch. Here we go.
There you go.
Here we go.
There we go.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
All right, looks like we have 26 of 26. Any additional votes to? No, looks like that's 100%. So the ayes have it and the motion has passed. And again, we want to thank Ann and Gabrielle for their leadership and the members of their committee in coming up with a truly great representation of the league's position on this issue.
So next on the agenda is a motion to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on election administration. So you heard that report earlier from Richard and about the recommended update on election administration. So do I hear a motion?
Richard Pund, I move to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on election administration.
It has been moved to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on election administration. Is there any debate? Okay, no debate. And
I see a question in chat. Sorry, I can answer it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I see Linda's question, does proportional voting mean the same thing as ranked choice voting? There is a method of ranked choice voting that produces proportional results. There are other proportional methods that the study will go over in addition to that one.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely be learning a lot more about all of that, I know, as you all go through the process. So if there's no more questions, the vote is on the motion to create the committee to update the position statement on election administration. And you can vote now if you are a voting delegate. Should be on the screen. And we're at 25 votes. So I think that means everybody has voted. So yeah, the ayes have it and the motion is passed. Thank you very much, Richard.
All right, next on the agenda is the motion to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on legislative apportionment. And so this morning you heard from Connie Taylor, the report on the recommended update to the position statement on legislative apportionment. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
This is Connie Taylor. I move to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on legislative apportionment.
Perfect. It has been moved to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position statement on legislative apportionment. Are there any questions or need for debate? I see no hands. I've heard no voices. Any other questions? Perfect. Hearing none, the vote then is on the motion to create a committee whose purpose is to update the position on legislative apportionment. All voting delegates, please vote now. And it looks like we are at 25 of 25, 100%. The ayes have it and the motion is passed. We look forward to Connie's committee and Richard's committee and what they put before us this time next year as far as updated position statements. So thank you both.
And just as an aside, we do know that a legislative apportionment, we've asked that they make that a simpler name, but have the same stuff, you know, so just so you know, that's hard to say about 10 times as we have. So we'll be, that'll be part of what they're working on. Okay, so we now are going to move on to the adoption of the revised endowment fund bylaws. So you heard that report this morning by Carol Neal about the adoption of the revised LWVK endowment fund bylaws. Do I hear a motion to adopt?
This is Carol Neal. I move that we adopt the changes to the bylaws.
So it's been moved to adopt the revised bylaws as presented. Are there any questions or any debate? Not seeing any. That makes it easy. Okay, so hearing none, the vote is on the motion to adopt the revised endowment fund bylaws as presented. This vote does require a 3/4 vote, I believe, to approve.
Yes.
It is different than our typical 2/3. I'm not too concerned. We are up to 24 votes. 24 have voted yes in favor. So looks like that has passed. Thank you. And the ayes have it and the motion is passed. We do appreciate the work of the endowment fund and be on the lookout. Martha and I are learning more about that. We've sat in on a meeting. We will probably be talking about this more in coming months. So they do good work and we appreciate it. Thank you, Carol.
Next on the item of business is the election of our 2022-2024 officers and directors and our slate of nominees. And I will turn that over to Gwen to give that presentation. Oops, Gwen, I think you're muted, dear.
Will there be a slide on that? We had one earlier.
I think you're just going to repeat what you said before. Basically, just name the positions. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. So the officers for a 2-year term for 2022, thank you, to 2024. The second vice president is open. The treasurer is Sarah Funk, proposed as Sarah Funk, Johnson County. Elected directors 2-year term, Vicki Arnett, Topeka Shawnee County, Intra-League Co-Coordinator, and Director Jill Quigley, Johnson County for DEI. I move that this slate be approved or voted for.
Perfect. All right. So with the slate before us and the motion made by Gwen to accept as such, the poll will come up and all voting delegates, please vote now.
I have a question.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I apologize, Sharon. We should have asked for if there was any questions. I apologize.
My question is if the second vice president is open, what does that job entail? What are we looking for? Is that communications?
No, ma'am. Yeah. It has no portfolio attached to it. It is a board position it is a position on the board.
And
so,
then you give the portfolio later?
Indeed. We have several portfolios that are open. Communications is one, as is fundraising, as is social media. Am I forgetting something, Jackie?
I think that's it. But but there were no nominations from the floor in the first half, so we don't have that position filled. But that is the open.
I just was curious exactly what it entailed and what we were looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Sharon.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I apologize for not asking if there were any other questions after the motion was made. So with those questions hopefully being all answered now we'll fulfill the poll. All right, 25 of 25. The slate is elected. Congratulations to our newly elected officers, directors, and the nominating committee for all of their work. Just a reminder, we would ask that all board members, both those formerly serving and currently serving, stay on after this meeting, as we'll have a very brief board meeting to follow up. So.
Okay, we will move on to, we're done voting for now, so that we'll move on to the next bit. Well, we think we're done voting. Action resolutions. Are there any action resolutions for us to address today? Okay, I don't see anything there, so thank you.
Regarding directions to the board, at the end of every annual state gathering, we always set aside time in which the board seeks your guidance for the coming year. Your role as a league member is important, and we want to hear your thoughts. So please feel free to share anything that you think pertinent when it comes to directions to the board for the upcoming term. Linda Johnson, you've dropped something in the chat. Would you consider that a message more on the election administration or a direction to the board? Oh, maybe she's
not there right now, it looks like.
Okay.
So wait for her.
Oh, wait a minute.
there
Now
she
am I
is.
on?
Yeah,
There
you're
you
on now.
are.
Okay, sorry. I was also writing a note that said, I really do appreciate the board's current and historic, the last few years, you've been a lot more active and, you send money to local leagues to really push on voter issues. And we've had some money that came in, but I would encourage everyone, as I am still on the board of the endowment fund, to remember to give donations, because if you would include the league in your final gifts, your bestowals when you die, it's a huge help. We know how much we appreciated the gifts that came in the last couple of years. And I think you're taking activism right now on the value them both, and I appreciate the activism that you're taking.
Thank you, Linda.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Linda
That was Linda
Johnson,
Johnson.
spouting.
Thank you.
And Grace Wilson did have something asking the board to reevaluate how much we spend for our legislative liaison, Paul Johnson, and consider a lobbyist more in line with our legislative priorities. So
Okay.
We'll take note of that. And our
Connie
board
Taylor had her hand raised.
Go ahead.
Yeah, my thing is to evaluate having a dedicated advocacy page on the LWVK website that lists call to action during the legislative session. I know sometimes that we have really quick turnaround, and it would be helpful if we have a dedicated advocacy page to do that, to draw people's attention. I know that could be time consuming. So.
Indeed. So any of those who have made suggestions, directions, if you could just drop them in the chat, just your thoughts. And I mean, it doesn't have to be too detailed, anything, crazy detailed or outlined, just something so that we can record those and make sure they get added to the overall minutes. And so that, again, as a board, we can address those in our upcoming board meeting.
Who was that last person?
That was Connie Taylor.
Thank you.
Yep. I believe Carol Neal has her hand up.
Yes, the direction to the board that I have is just continue the excellent work that you've been doing. I know this year, as in the past, that lawsuits just take up immense amounts of times, and you guys have done wonderful of keeping us running even during a massive lawsuit. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Carol. Thank you for that recognition. We appreciate that as a board. Yeah, throw a lawsuit in on top of a pandemic and on top, my goodness. So thank you for that. Others that had any hands raised, any additional comments, any directions to the board that they wanted to share? Not seeing any new hands popping up. Thank you for dropping those into the chat. We appreciate it.
That'll help us keep track of them. For
Grace
next.
has something that she's added to the chat. Thank you for that, Grace. So that we can make sure that gets recorded as well.
Yes. Okay. So just a couple announcements, and then we do have a couple other things to say at the end, so hang with us. We're going to get you out of here early anyway, so just a few more items. The LWVUS convention will be held in a hybrid format. It's going to be in Denver in person, and then on your computer at home on June 23rd to 26th in Denver. Registration is open now, and it's on the LWVUS website. Your local president has all the information, and so contact them if you're interested. Martha and I've been sharing that as we can, and I imagine they get you all local presidents are getting emails from our LWVUS as well. So if you are interested in even attending, even not as a voting delegate, but want to observe, that option is available with the hybrid option. So we can get you more info if you need that.
And just to kind of piggyback off what Jackie said, if you haven't looked into it, there is a lot that's going to be happening and following convention this year. As Jackie said, we've shared this with all of our local league presidents, but there's a lot of changes that are coming, and they're going to be introduced at National Convention. There's a lot of changes being suggested about programming, and they've created an entire site where if you choose to be a delegate, you're going to want to be a well-informed delegate. And so you can check out that site and find out what those positions are all about and know going into it. Jackie and I will be attending in person. So for those of you that are going in person, we'd love to know who you are and be able to obviously meet up with you when we're there. And maybe we can even arrange something to have a little group session for those who will be attending virtually. We can maybe set aside some time to, just as a group, we come together and collaborate in that way while we're there. So please, if you're interested at all, reach out to your local league presidents and let them know you're interested in serving as potentially as a delegate, or as Jackie said, just to attend. So we would like to recognize our outgoing treasurer, Anita Kaiser, for serving on the LWVK board for 8 years. Yeah, believe it or not, she's put up with us for 8 whole years. We do not know what we would have done without her these last few years, and we will miss her presence on our board.
No wonder she wants to retire after 8 years with us.
Her knowledge of our bylaws and policies, coupled with her willingness to take on additional responsibilities of our centennial celebration finances and our conversion to a 501c3, has made her an invaluable resource for our league. We wish you all the best, Anita. And if we ever have a question about bylaws, we know you're only a phone call away. In other words, you can run, but you cannot hide. So we love you, and we appreciate everything that you've done in service to the league and to your fellow Kansans. So much love.
Okay, thank you very much, Anita. We are gonna miss you. Sarah will do great, but we are gonna miss you. I'm trying to get the clap off my. Oh, I don't know. It still says clapping. I'm not gonna worry about that. Okay, it'll go away. Okay, I like you all giving Anita kudos in the chat. That's great. So thank you for participating in our virtual council and for your leadership in our state and local communities and in the league, which is 102 years strong this year. Our country needs informed and engaged voters now more than ever. So we're so grateful for the opportunity to work with you all in carrying out the league's mission in Kansas. Together, despite the barriers in our way, we will continue empowering voters and defending democracy. Is there any more business before the 2022 LWV Kansas Council? Note that the new board does need to stay on the call for a quick meeting. Everybody who's attending, thank you so much. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email with a link to an evaluation form, plus links to all the resources that were mentioned today. The PowerPoints, links to all kinds of stuff. Olivia's been collecting it, and that will be part of a big email to come out soon. So thank you all for attending. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. The council is now adjourned. Thank you.